We are starting, we're live. Hi, everyone. So, I'm Tina. I'm a Chief Product Officer at AMZScout, and I'm ready to kick off today's webinar with you. I see, and I guess many of you are just starting on Amazon, and our goal today is to help you get started the right way and avoid the costly mistakes so many beginners run into. In this session, we'll cover the essentials: how to register the US business correctly, how to choose the best state to save on costs, and the key tax points every seller should understand. I'm also excited to show you later how powerful product research and keyword research can be with the right tools. It doesn't just save time, it can completely change the way you decide what to sell. So I think I'll give you the whole new perspective on finding winning products. At the end of this webinar, you'll have the chance to ask any questions directly to me and Riley. So you'll walk away with clarity and confidence. So let's dive in. For now, I'd like to hand it over to our partner and today's speaker from Dula, Riley, who will walk you through the steps of business formation and getting set up the right way. And after that, I'll be back with my part of the presentation. So Riley, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Tina. So hi, everyone. My name is Riley Johnson. I'm a business formation specialist here at Dula. Dula has been around for about the last 5 years. We're a Y Combinator-backed company. Myself personally, I've been setting up US LLCs, C Corps, helping with taxation for the last 7 years, almost 7. October 19th will be 7 years. And I've been doing that here at Dula for the last 3 years, primarily for non-residents, also for US citizens and US taxpayers, with a strong focus on e-com and Amazon specifically. So very high level here at Dula. No matter where you are in the world, essentially, we can help register a US company, open up the US business bank account, of course, and help you get on the path to set up your US Amazon store. After the company is all formed through Dula, most of our packages will have plans and resources where we'll handle all the bookkeeping, all the US tax and compliance, and you have direct CPA advice, certified public accountant advice here at Dula. Just hit the high points of what I'll cover here. We'll go over the basics of opening up a US LLC. We also do form C corporations, which we can shelf here for a moment. I'll touch on that later in the presentation. Typically, for most of the people on this call, an LLC will be the better structure for the goals of selling into the US market through Amazon. We'll, of course, cover which state makes the most sense to file that new US LLC in. And the basic costs and requirements that come with each state. And then I'll go over the step-by-step process for what we do here at Dula to register and form and create the whole company here in the US. And then very high level, I'll cover essential tax considerations that any international seller should understand before launching. Also for Carol in Texas, might be close to me, might be far. Texas is huge. If there's any US taxpayers on the call, I can go over how US taxes would work for US founders owning LLCs as well. So some high level points here on the US market as a whole. Some of the advantages of having a US LLC, US business bank account. You can, of course, transact in USD, strong currency globally. Recognized essentially everywhere, stable. Also allows a lot of ease of transactions with any of your suppliers and of course with your customers. Having a US entity, it does boost the reputation that you have. Instead of doing business under your name as a person from your home country, you'll be doing business under the name of this US LLC. It's a limited liability company, an official US entity. To tie into that, LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. You, of course, have liability protection. There are strong protections just baked in inherently into an LLC in any of the 50 states here in the US, wherever you form it, that gives you liability protection, and then also what's referred to as PLP, or personal liability protection. Not to scare anybody, but plain English answer, somebody can sue your LLC or sue any LLC if something wild happens. If they were to win in that lawsuit, they can take what that LLC owns. They can take anything in its bank account, its assets, what that company owns. But at no point in time can they pursue the owner's assets in court. So clearly put, your house, your car, your bank account, your everything is entirely separate from this limited liability company if there were something like a lawsuit or giant debts or anything like that. The US LLC will get a EIN number, which I'll cover a little bit later in the presentation. That is a US tax ID number for this new US company that allows it to open up a US business bank account. We assist with that here at Dula as well. So that, of course, gives you access to the US banking system. There's many options too that I can cover where that can all be done from your computer, your laptop, in your home country. There's typically not a need to get on an airplane and travel to the United States to open that business bank account. Also too, there are options very easily to put payment processors such as Stripe or PayPal on top of that US business bank account. US LLCs can also apply for lines of credit, can apply for credit cards, can get credit card points like Amex points. So having the US LLC in business does open up the doors and gives that company, and of course its owners by proxy, access to the US banking system and its perks and advantages. The US is a global business hub. Of course, this US LLC can service US customers all over the country, even though the way that LLCs get set up in the United States, they do get filed in one of our 50 US states. But regardless of what state that is, and I'll cover it later here I can confirm you can use that LLC all over America for all American customers. And then of course you can use that all over the world with the exception of a few countries. But essentially you can use that to service the entire globe. Compared to other countries, especially the EU and most of it as well, setting up the US company is relatively easy. It's relatively fast. We do all that for you at Dula, and I'll cover that later in the presentation. But forming the company, having it all set up, opening up the US business bank account, setting up a US Amazon store are all very straightforward and very easy, especially because we're doing most of that for you at Dula. But then compared again to other parts of the world, specifically EU, the taxes and compliance are relatively light as far as the effort that a founder like yourself has to put into it. We also here at Dula, we have a lot of tools that link to your Amazon store directly. We link to your US business bank account. So we automate a lot of the bookkeeping and the compliance and the record keeping. And then with most of our clients here at Dula, you'll have a CPA, a certified public accountant on your team, and Dula will just flat out file the US taxes at the end of each year. So the US market is a great place for growth. There is a very large consumer base. I don't have an exact number off the top of my head, but I believe it's almost around 400 million. Americans do have extra income for the most part. There is money to spend, especially on a platform like Amazon, especially as we're coming up to the holiday season. And there's big American checkpoint sort of holidays, I'd say. If anyone has heard of Black Friday or Cyber Monday, those are essentially where Americans are buying all their gifts for the end of the year holidays like Christmas, Hanukkah, Eid, all that. As I had touched on a little bit, it's a very business-friendly environment here in the US. We fostered innovation for the last century plus, and there's very low barriers to entry compared to other parts of the world, of course. And then there are extensive resources for business expansion. As I mentioned before, full access to the US banking system, potential access to lines of credit, credit cards, access to funding from VCs, venture capitalists. So there are definitely resources to expand and grow through a US company. That also does tie into the access to capital. So there are a robust network of venture capital firms, individual angel investors. There's crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe, if anyone's run across that. So having access to the US market and its inherent built-in systems that give a business access to capital is always a great way to access growth in the US market. On average, US consumers have a significant disposable income compared to certain parts of the world. So it does make it a very attractive market, especially if you're selling or plan on selling what may be considered premium products or premium services. There's definitely dollars spent by US customers. Also, there is some global influence here in the US. Establishing a company here, having success in this US market does help enhance brand credibility, both on US soil, of course, and then abroad. So it can, if you have an existing store or business or something going on in your home country, it can add credibility and open up the doors to the capital and access to the US market I mentioned by forming a US company. If this is your first time as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it's a great place to start. It's a wonderful launching pad, and it's not to be cheesy here, but if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So if it's your first time or if you're already doing this in your home country, it makes sense to have a presence here in the US through a US entity. Also, the United States is very diverse. There is a wide range of markets. I'm sure everyone here has been on Amazon, maybe not Amazon US specifically, but there's things on there you can buy for $5, $10, $20. There's things you can buy on there for $2,000, $5,000. So there's a wide range of both price points and products that are available. And leading up to the US shopping season, holiday season, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's a great time to get a presence here. So with Doula specifically, we have what we refer to as a business in a box. And I'll cover all the aspects of it in the next few slides, but we help connect the dots. We do really want to be a one-stop shop, for lack of a better term. We want you to have one provider, Doula, one dashboard where you link to everything you're doing. We set up your company, of course. We help manage the US bookkeeping. We take care of all the tax and compliance on the US side. So our goal is to really cover all the things that sometimes business owners and especially solopreneurs or one man or one woman show struggle with. We want to be your back office. We want to take care of all these confusing and overwhelming things like bookkeeping, tax, sales tax. That's what we're accomplishing for our founders here at Doula. So to hit the high notes, we do inside of our Doula community, there are ways to talk and interact and get tips and learn lessons from other international e-com founders like yourself. We do cover all the business basics. We have dedicated account managers that can walk through any challenges that you run into on the US side while growing your brand and growing your store with Amazon specifically. And then at the base level of all of our plans, we form your business. So I'll go into that deeper in the next few slides, but we'll file your LLC. We'll draft up an operating agreement, which is sort of a proof of ownership document, an internal document that says who owns this company, what its name is, what it does, the US addresses that we actually give you at Doula that you have to stay compliant, which is a registered agent address. That's all listed in that document. And then, of course, we do obtain the EIN number, which again is the federal US tax ID number for the new US company or US LLC. That is issued directly to the company. The company uses that to open up a business bank account. If you were to apply for credit cards, if you were to access capital and funding or loans, all that's done under that EIN number. And then eventually at the end of each US tax year, the US business files its US taxes under that EIN number. And we do all that for you start to finish. Part of what we provide as well, and what every US company has to have, is a registered agent. And a registered agent, in very simple terms, is a physical brick and mortar building in whatever state your US company is in. That is the point of contact for the US government, meaning, for example, myself, I'm in Texas, Carol is in Texas. If we have a Texas LLC, the Texas LLC will have a Texas registered agent office. We maintain that for you at Dula as part of our services. We have offices in all 50 states. But if and when the state of Texas or the federal US government, the IRS, is going to serve paperwork to this Texas LLC, that only goes to the Texas registered agent office. Part of our services as well here at Dula is when mail or paperwork is received at that Texas address or the registered agent address, Dula will scan and upload those documents in PDF, and we send you notifications. So you'll be able to access those documents anywhere in the world. Part of most of our plans here at Dula is we built an internal bookkeeping software as well. We call it Dula Pulse. It links directly to your US company's bank accounts, PayPal, Stripe, credit cards, almost every financial platform that you have. It does now also link directly with your US Amazon store, so you can track your inventory, your financials, if there's any rate of returns, cost of goods. So all of that's in a centralized dashboard. And then with most of our plans, besides the software itself, you have a human dedicated bookkeeper. So their job is they'll go in at the end of each week and at the end of each month, and they tag and categorize and they reconcile your company's books. That way you have a clear and accurate, up-to-date financial picture of your business as a whole. And then that information also will be passed off and will be translated to your CPA at Dula. That's your certified public accountant, your tax guy or girl. They will use all that information. You can meet with them, you can have discussions, you can do calls as part of our plan, but calls or no calls, using that financial data, Dula will just flat out file all the company's state and federal US taxes. And then lastly, as I touched on before, the US business will have a US business bank account or accounts that allows you to move and deposit USD and funds. You can also extract or transfer those funds in USD, can convert into your local currency and essentially send money back home, for lack of a better term. You can also, your US company can, of course, and also purchase things and pay for things, buy inventory, buy software, buy tools like AMZScout. Those are business deductions, which I'll cover a little bit later in the slide. So those are ways to lower the net profit that the LLC would ultimately be paying taxes on. And that ties into our bookkeeping software. We want to find every legal and viable business write-off or business deduction or business expense. Those are kind of interchangeable terms, but by tracking every transaction that the company has, it allows us to do that. And then we can aggressively do our best to lower the net profit that this company is ultimately being taxed on. So there's a couple different structures of business here in the US. We're focusing only on for-profit companies here, of course. Very high level. An LLC is probably the answer for most people on this call. To hit the high notes, an LLC, it's a very simple and easy to do business. So an LLC does not have shares of stock. There's no board of directors, there's no officers, there's no annual meetings. An LLC has 100% equity, and then it has a member or members. Member, in this case, is just a fancy word for an owner of an LLC. So if you are a single member, you're the one owner of the company, you have 100% equity. You own the whole thing, you own all the percentage. If you have business partners, multi-member, more than one owner, more than one person, You can divide that 100% equity however you choose. You can go 50-50, 70-30, 33-33-33, 25%, 25. So you can chop up the equity however you choose. But with the LLC, very easy. No shares of stock, no board of directors, 100% divided by the multiple owners, or 100% equity held by the one single member or single owner. For non-residents, in this case specifically, some income can typically be subject to U.S. tax, but only if it's considered effectively connected to U.S. trade or business, which I'll cover because I know that's very confusing. I'll cover that in the next few slides, but for the most part, especially in certain states like Wyoming or Delaware, the tax burden that's actually paid in the United States or ultimately reported over to your home country and paid there is very minimal compared to other developed nations. The next term we included in here because some people may have heard the term S Corp or S Corporation. Common misconception, an S Corp or S Corporation is not a type of company. None of the 50 states are going to file an S Corp. I wish the IRS would call it something else because it's confusing. S Corp or S Corporation is a tax status that the IRS grants on top of an LLC or a corporation that one of our 50 states forms. So it's actually not a type of company. It is a tax election. For the few American tax residents and citizens we have on the call, this might be a viable choice. Again, it's definitely case by case. It's sort of a blend between your personal taxes and the business's taxes itself. If you do S Corp election, you're required to pay yourself a reasonable salary. And I'm making little air quotes because the IRS has complicated tables and formulas based on where you live, what you do, that define what that reasonable salary is. We can help walk you through that. Our CPAs will determine what that is, if S Corp applies, and if it makes sense, and if you wanted to do it. But to keep it very simple, this may not be an option for a lot of people on the call. For an S Corporation election, which basically passes a lot through on personal U.S. income taxes, 100% of this company needs to be owned by U.S. taxpayers. So if you or one of your partners are not U.S. tax residents, the S Corp is just not an option. And in some of those cases, it might not even be the best option for you, even if it was. But to keep it very short and sweet, everyone in the company has to be American tax residents for S Corp to even be an option. You're required to pay yourself a salary, withhold payroll taxes, and our CPAs can advise if that is even the correct tax election or structure for your specific case. But again, if it's not 100% or fully owned by American tax residents, it's not an option. C corporations. C corporations are more formal companies in a lot of ways. If we have any UK clients on the call, it's similar to a UK private limited, or in Germany, there's GmbHs. But the C corporation issues shares of stock. That's how the equity is expressed. You as the founder, you decide that number. You can say my C Corp has 10 shares of stock. It has 10 million shares of stock. It has a billion. Those shares of stock define the equity. Whoever holds those shares of stock or whoever owns them, they're called shareholders. They own that portion of the C corporation by default. Just from a tax perspective, C corporations are wholly separate tax entities than the shareholders, than the humans or the individuals that hold those shares of stock. So the C corporation files and pays US taxes on its net profits. There's almost no involvement with the shareholders' personal income, personal taxes. There's some crossovers. If you pay yourself a salary or dividends to the C corporation as an individual, that is considered personal income in your home country. I'll touch on the taxation though a little bit later in the presentation, but to hit the high notes, C Corps issue shares of stock. That's who has equity that defines the ownership in that company. They also have a director or directors, a board of directors, and an annual meeting. So those directors and officers of the company have to have a meeting once a year and record the minutes of that meeting, basically who said what and what was said in that meeting. From a tax perspective, as I mentioned, the C corporation, almost always separate from the human or the individuals or the shareholders of that C corporation. The taxes are very straightforward with the C corporation. They pay 21% on its net profit only. So 21% of net profit is paid to the IRS, to the US federal government. Typically, nothing is taxed in your home country if you're not a US resident or US tax resident, except, of course, personal income. That's typically taxed in your home country if you pay yourself through a salary or through dividends. And of course, these are very high level strokes here. I noticed through our audience, we have people all over the world in a bunch of different time zones. This is generalization. It is all based on the United States specific tax treaty with your specific country. Again, here at Dula, we have plenty of resources. We have CPAs, certified public accountants, licensed tax professionals on your team, so they can help navigate your specific situation. But very high level, C corporations pay taxes here in the US. Typically nothing's taxed in your home country except salary and dividends. So as I had mentioned a little bit earlier, one of the 50 US states files your actual LLC or C corporation, but for the rest of this presentation, I'm really just going to talk about LLCs because that's probably the most applicable to 95% of the audience on this call. If you do have specific questions, as Tina had mentioned, there's a Q&A section here in the chat. Please put those in there and we'll spend the last part of the presentation. We can address each one case by case. But moving forward, I'm going to discuss an LLC. So, simple part of this is if you're a US resident, like myself, like Carol mentioned, we live in Texas. If you live in the United States, file the LLC in the state that you live in, the state that you file your personal taxes. There's some exceptions. I use Texas as an example. We actually do not have personal state taxes in Texas, but all that being said, I still do want to file my LLC in Texas, or essentially where I live, and really more importantly, as far as how the IRS and the state of Texas or any other state is going to view this, the state that I am running the day-to-day operations of this company from. So even if you're doing this on a laptop, it's all on the internet, it's all on Amazon, I'm in Texas. I have created if I'm doing that here in Texas, an economic nexus. Texas is going to say your company should be in Texas, or your company is subject to Texas taxes for LLCs, which are not zero, unfortunately. But all that being said, if you live in America, file your company in the state that you live in, and specifically the state that you'll be running the day-to-day operations of this LLC in. For all our non-residents on the call, or not US taxpayers, 3 easy questions. The short answer, I'm not going to jump to it. There's really 2 optimal options. It's Wyoming and Delaware, but ask yourself 3 questions. Will you have a physical office here in the United States, a physical presence? Is your US company physically engaged in trade or business? Is it doing US soil in a specific state? For Amazon specifically, if you're doing FBA or fulfillment by Amazon, or if a third party or 3PL company is storing or housing your products in Minnesota or in California or in Florida, that does not mean that your company has a physical nexus in any of those states. Your third-party logistics company, your 3PL, owns that warehouse in Florida, California, in whatever state. They are housing those products. So very high level, if you're not here in the US and your business directly does not have a physical presence in any specific US state, you can choose any of the 50 you want. Spoiler alert, Wyoming and Delaware are the 2 best. If though you do see that you will be raising funds for your US company, like you're going to be courting outside institutional investors, or VCs, here is short for venture capitalists and venture capital firms. If that's the answer, state specifically, I'll cover that in a minute. If you are 100% sure that that is the route, ask yourself, when is that happening? When are you going to be courting these investors? If it's years down the road, if it's in 2027, 2028, you want to build up first, maybe starting a Delaware C Corp is not the immediate solution. If you're incredibly sure that you're going to be seeking funding in the next couple months or less than a year, answer is always Delaware, and the answer is always a C corporation. To tie back to C corporations having shares of stock, that is the reason it's the preferred vehicle for raising capital. Because if I have an LLC, I only have 100% equity. So in my head, an easy way to think about it, I have 100 ownership coupons that I can sell in exchange for capital and funding. It's really not enough. If I'm a C corporation, as I mentioned before, I decide how many shares. I can have 10,000 shares of stock, 10,000 ownership coupons. I have 1 million, I have 1 billion. I have almost unlimited scalable equity or ownership coupons in simple terms to sell off in exchange for capital investment and ownership in my company. So if you're raising capital, C Corp and Delaware specifically is the preferred state. And then number 3, the nature of the business itself and the product service you're selling. Here on the AMZ webinar for AMZScout, I'm just going to assume everybody's doing Amazon or e-commerce in some shape or form. So that being said, to touch back on what I had mentioned before, if you have no physical presence in any US state, if any of your products are being stored in a warehouse or facility that your company does not directly own, you have no physical nexus in any of the 50 states. So you can pick anyone you want. You might as well pick the ones that are the most tax friendly, and those are Wyoming and Delaware. So both the state of Wyoming and the state of Delaware have 0% tax on their LLCs and corporations, meaning they will keep 0% of a company's revenue or net profit. You still do have to file federal government with the IRS, and you're subject to their taxation. But if you can pick any state you choose, you may as well pick the ones that are 0% tax. To go back to Delaware, if you are on those sort of edge cases where you're going to be raising capital from institutional investors, VCs, friends and family, Delaware is always the preferred state. They have an extra court system called the Delaware Chancery Court, and it specifically is designed to protect investors' money. So I can't say that no savvy investor or no venture capital firms will not invest in a company in some other state, but they will feel much more comfortable investing in a Delaware corporation because they feel like their investment is protected inherently by the Delaware Chancery Court system. So all that being said, if you're raising capital, Wyoming is typically the answer. It's the same 0% state taxes as Delaware, same advantages there, but they have lower state fees. So Wyoming, you only have to pay $60 a year. You don't even have to file taxes. They don't care because they're not taxed. You don't have to file taxes with the state of Wyoming, excuse me. You still have to file federally. But you pay them $60 a year, 0% of your profit. Delaware, similar story. Delaware, you do have to do a light tax filing, but their annual fee each year is $300. So typically, Wyoming's preferred. You save $250, $240 a year in state fees. We can file in any of the 50 states here at Dula. I do want to emphasize that. But if you're a non-resident, pretty much all roads lead to these 2 states. And for most people on this call who are doing an LLC, the roads lead to Wyoming. So just the process and timeline, and we do all this for you here at Dula. To get started on our website, it's very basic information. We just need the name of the company that you want to use. We collect your email address. That does not go to the US government. That's just your username on our website. It's where we send you updates, send you communication, your CPA, bookkeeper, account manager, communicate with that. You do have to list a address because it is part of the tax filings eventually at the end of each year. Specifically, if you're a non-resident, you need to identify what country you're from. But that address does not have to be in the US. It can be in your home country. For our American founders here on the call, of course, you'll use your American address. And then you just list a phone number in case we need to call you if we can't reach out by email for anything urgent. To emphasize though, that phone number, that email does not go to the US government. It's basically just your account info on Dula. So we take all that information along with, of course, the owners, who's going to own the company, what their percentage in the LLC is. We take all that and we'll just flat out file the LLC for you, start to finish. You type in basic info on our website, that's all done in a week or less. For that stage, it does not matter if you're a US citizen or specifically if you have a social security number, which for any non-residents on the call, that is a personal US tax ID number that Americans just get when we're born. Or there are certain situations, if anyone has been here on like a student visa or a work visa, you can have a social security number without being a US citizen, but very broad strokes. If you're not a US citizen with this US social security number, the next step does take a bit longer, unfortunately. The next step is the EIN number. That is that tax ID number I mentioned earlier that is assigned to this company, not you as a human or you as a person. But we do have to go obtain and extract the EIN number for your new LLC. If you're American or you have a social security number, IRS already knows who you are, you're in their system. We can go to irs.gov, we go on a website. Once your company is filed after that first week, type in some stuff, they give us the EIN in 24 to 36 hours, 1 to 2 days. If you're not a US citizen with a social security number, it's not a problem. We do have to fax in your signed EIN paperwork, like it's still the 1980s. So we have to fax in paper copies of that EIN application, which we prep for you totally. You just e-sign it on our website, fax it in the IRS. We are then allowed to call anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks later. We have dedicated agents that all they do is just extract EINs all day long. But to keep it short and sweet, if you're not a US citizen, expect that next phase to take anywhere from about 5 to 7 weeks if it's not expedited. And I can go over that with our plans, but we do have options where you can expedite that portion of the process and chop that timeline down closer to 3 to 4 weeks. So it's still not lightning fast, but it is faster. To emphasize, you do have to have this, any company, has to have this EIN number before it can open a US business bank account, before it can do anything with the money. That includes opening an Amazon store. You can't open the Amazon store without this number. But all that being said, once the EIN number comes back, we'll do 100% of that for you. You can apply for a US business bank account totally online. We have great partners like Mercury. There's services like Revolut, Novo, Brex, Wise, Payoneer. There's 10 or 15 of them. We'll walk you through that process here at Dula. That we cannot actually do for you. We are not allowed to open a bank account on behalf of your company. We're not allowed to upload your passport to these banks. However, we do have full guides. We have customer support. You'll have an account manager. We can hop on a Zoom call. So you have to spend 15 or 20 minutes touching the actual keyboard, uploading your passport. So we'll hold your hand for it. But Dula will assist with opening that business bank account or accounts. Step 1 and 2, we're doing 100% for you. After you type in basic stuff on our website, it's all on autopilot. You don't have to do anything. You get little updates by email. Part of all that I'll skip over in the interest of time, while we're filing the LLC, we are providing that registered agent address, the one I mentioned that was a physical office in the state where your company is, and then we scan and upload mail. But to confirm steps 1 and 2, we do 100% for you. Bank account, we will walk you through it. You have to touch the keyboard. It takes 10 or 15 minutes. And then once that application for the bank account is in, on average, the US business bank account will typically be open in about 5 business days. So there's ongoing compliances for any US company. Again, we handle all these for you at Dula. Something that has recently changed, as of a couple months ago, this regulation has changed, but there used to be something called a BOI, or Beneficial Owner Information Report. I'll breeze through this, but there's a federal department called FinCEN, period of about 24 months. Every single US company, whether it's owned by Americans or non-resident, had to identify who owned that company, and it was on file. That's who is the beneficial owner of that, a beneficial owner information report of that U.S. entity. That has since been struck down by a few of our court systems as of May 12th, I think it is, of this year. It's no longer a requirement. We still have the infrastructure in place to file this in case the government turns it back on. But as of this webinar here in September of 2025, it is not a requirement. If it becomes a requirement, we'll do it again for all our customers. State compliance, different states have different compliances. Generally speaking, though, across the board, every state will have an annual report, some form of a report that you send in. That is not taxes. So I'll focus in on Wyoming and Delaware because those are the two most logical states, I think, for a lot of the audience. So to emphasize, Wyoming, you file an annual report. It is not taxed. There's really no numbers on that form. You're not disclosing any financials. It's just the simple information on the company. What's its name? Who's its registered agent? What's the day it was formed? And then a $60 fee to the state of Wyoming. We do that whole process for you. You do have to pay the $60 state fee to Wyoming. Delaware, very similar story. Once a year, an annual report needs to be filed for a Delaware LLC or C Corp. They do ask a little bit of financial information. It's not as intense as a full-on federal IRS tax filing, but there are some fields like gross assets, net profit, all this. For an LLC, though, it doesn't matter. I'm not even honestly sure why they ask that anymore. In Delaware, if your LLC is in that state, you pay a $300 fee each year. If your company had no sales, no profit, it lost money, unfortunately, you pay Delaware $300 to continue for the next year. If your company made $1 billion, trillion, $1 million, good news, you don't pay a percentage of that. You're not being taxed by the state of Delaware, but you pay Delaware $300. So there's annual reports and basically fixed state fees in those two states, in broad strokes in most other states. On top of all 50 US states for tax purposes is the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, the federal tax arm of our government. Those are filed every year. Every company, regardless of income, revenue, activity, has to file taxes with the IRS or you face fines. So that is a fixed, it's done every single year. What's not fixed is the due date. We can get deeper on this in the Q&A, case by case, but depending on whether you're an LLC or a C corporation, and specifically how many owners that LLC has, if it has one or if it has more than one, a multi-member LLC, your taxes are either due on March 15th, on or before March 15th of each year, or a month later, April 15th of each year. Bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is crucial for any business, especially ones that are going to be engaged in e-commerce, that are going to have high transaction volume. To keep it short and sweet, we have automated tools at Dula that link directly to your business's bank account, to your Amazon store. So we have human bookkeepers on top of that software, so we'll handle all that for you. But to be very straightforward here, you can't file taxes without bookkeeping because that is the sum total of all the different portions of your taxes, and you don't want to be keeping the equivalent of like a digital shoebox filled with receipts. We highly, highly emphasize and having like a strong software platform in place before you even make your first sale, before you even open up your store. So that way, when tax season comes around, everything's organized. Throughout the year, you'll also have like a clear financial picture, how profitable you are, what returns there are, what sort of tax burdens you're going to expect at the end of the year. Bookkeeping is crucial and ties in directly with tax and compliance. Some of the things to emphasize on the importance of bookkeeping. Any U.S. company, you can write off as, there's not a defined number of the amount of business expenses or basically deductions that a company can take out of its taxes. Specifically, in a company's first year, for what the IRS considers startup costs, which would be things like paying an accountant for tax services, paying a company like Dula to prepare those taxes, paying somebody to file and create your LLC, the state fees that I mentioned, useful business tools such as AMZScout to help optimize your store itself. You can write off up to $5,000 directly in the first year, and true with either an LLC or a C Corp. In addition to that, other business expenses like buying inventory, flying and travel, business meals with clients, those there's no cap or no limit on. But specifically, you can write off all the organizational expenses, essentially everything you were to spend with Doula and or AMZScout, specifically in your first year. General taxation, and in the interest of time, I'll keep this a little shorter. But in most situations, again, assuming you are not physically engaged in trade and business here in the U.S., you don't have ECI effectively connected income, LLCs are pass-through tax entities. So to explain that, the LLC files U.S. taxes. You have to show the United States and the IRS specifically every dollar, every euro, every transaction, everything coming in and out. That's where the bookkeeping comes into play. But once the LLC files its taxes, for the most part, all that's really doing is showing the net profit that is generated for the year. And that net profit passes through the LLC onto the owner or owners' personal taxes in their home country. So myself, I'm a U.S. tax resident. Carol and a few of the participants here on the call are U.S. taxpayers. So the LLC gets filed, net profit, taxable net profit passes on to my personal U.S. taxes, and I pay them on my taxes. If you are not a U.S. taxpayer, you're a non-resident, pretty much same story in almost every country. LLC is required to file U.S. taxes. You show every dollar, every transaction, everything going in and out. That determines the net profit. That net profit now, whether it's $1, it's $1 million, $1 billion, it is typically not subject to U.S. tax, meaning you would not be taxed by the IRS on that net profit. However, we do have tax treaties with most countries here. So the IRS will report that to the tax authorities in your home country, and it is typically put on your personal taxes in your home country. So I'll give a real easy answer here. I know there was a visitor here from India, or on the call from India. We have a lot of clients in IST. Shout out India. You own a U.S. LLC. It has to file U.S. taxes. That shows the IRS's net profit. Regardless of that net profit, America to reach out to the Indian tax authorities at the end of the U.S. tax year, March or April 15th of each year, say, hey, India, one of your citizens owned this LLC in the United States. He had generated X amount of net profit. We have not taxed that. You should tax him in India on his personal Indian taxes. And then you're typically taxed at whatever that local tax rate is, and you're on your personal taxes in your home country, or India in the example I gave. C corporations, again, to go back to it, not a pass-through entity. The IRS says the C corporation and the shareholders, the people or the other companies that own equity in it, for tax purposes are two different things. The C corporation files federal taxes with the IRS. Again, that's really just showing net profit when it's all boiled down. That net profit is taxed at 21%, and that's paid to America and paid to the IRS. Nothing typically at that point is going to be reported to your home country or taxed on your personal taxes or taxed in your home country. The little asterisk and the exception here is if you pay yourself a salary from this US C Corp, you withdraw dividends, owner's draw, you're lowering the net profit of this American C Corp, what you're paying America 21% on. I'm not a tax expert in any other country, but I'm about 99.9% sure your home country will tax you on that personal income that you've received and withdrawn from the C corporation. But outside of that, C corporation files and pays American taxes for the most part, completely separate from an owner's owner's personal taxes and their personal, or their taxes in their home country. To tie into all of them, in any of these situations, LLC, where you're taxing your home country, C Corp, paid to America, any of this, you want to maximize your business deductions, because what is typically taxed, especially in the C Corp, but what is taxable is the net profit. So we want to find for you every legal, and I emphasize legal, deduction that we can to lower that taxable net profit. So anything, and this is very broad strokes, of course, but you can deduct business expenses any year. There's no cap or no maximum on that. They do have to be legitimate, ordinary, and necessary expenses. So if you're renting a facility or an office, you can absolutely write off the rent or the lease or the mortgage for that, for the business. Utilities like your internet, electric, water, all that can definitely be deducted from the company, or a term that I'll probably slip in there is written off or write off, which is kind of for a business expense. If you're traveling for the purposes of this US business, you buy a plane ticket to wherever to meet with clients, suppliers, all of that. That is typically always a business expense. Depending on your home country, depending on the tax treaty, if you're running this from a home office, you may typically be able to expense or write off a portion of your rent, lease, or mortgage for that home office. Again, those are things that are lowering the taxable net profit of the company. For an e-commerce business, a vehicle expense may not even really apply, but for businesses that own vehicles like work trucks or buses, transportation, those are all expenses. And of course, the gas and fuel and maintenance can be written off. But this is a sort of a slippery slope. Ordinary and necessary are somewhat loose terms, but the IRS does have very rigid categories of what does or does not fall into these. So that's part of where we'll step in. We do have the licensed CPAs, like I mentioned, human bookkeepers that will go through, and we will aggressively try to find every legal and viable business expense that we can, because our goal is to ultimately lower that net profit that you're ultimately being taxed on. I'll leave it at that. But I think everyone on this call hopefully has a good sense of that. Things like if you're taking your daughter to a restaurant because it's her 7th birthday, that's not a business expense. If you want to buy a cool piece of jewelry because you like it and you think it'll make you look cool that's not a business expense. But if it is justifiable, ordinary, and necessary, it can be deducted, and our goal is to find every single one of those that we can with our bookkeeping platform and our CPA platform. So some basic tips to avoid noncompliance. Pay your taxes on time. Don't be late. There's ways you can extend your deadlines. I won't get off topic on that, but stay on top of it. Don't be late. There's fines if you're late. If you're late enough, they can eventually shut your US company down. We handle that for you at Dula. We give reminders, and we're flat out doing most of this for our customers on almost all of our plans. But also use a reliable accounting software, especially in the e-com world when you're making 50, 100, 1,000 sales a day, transactions. You really want to keep detailed and accurate records so that at the end of the year, when tax time comes, you're not scrambling and hustling through the equivalent of like a shoebox full of receipts or an unorganized system. It's always recommended. It's just a way better path for success. Is just set that up from day one, and that way you're capturing and organizing every single transaction that's coming through the company. And that also does tie into the business expense slide in the past. For both LLCs and C corporations, to maintain your liability protection, what keeps you separate from this company in the event of a lawsuit, you cannot commingle your business and personal funds. So to tie back to the EIN and bank account portion of the presentation, open a business bank account from day one, or accounts. Everything that this US business is doing should be done out of that business account. You're not going to get in trouble if once or twice you mix up and you forget, you use your personal credit card, you pull the wrong card out of your wallet. But for the most part, 99% of the time, you really need to keep your business expenses and your personal expenses separate. If the business is receiving money, that should always go to a business bank account under its EIN. If the business is spending money, purchasing things, always out of a US business bank account under its EIN. And that all ties back to tax purposes, and also it's the rules and for compliance. And then, as I mentioned, I keep saying this, but whether it's with Dula or not, have a CPA involved. They are certified public accountants. they're licensed, they've gone to school for this, they've taken tests, they have rigorous regulations they have to follow. It's not just some guy with a textbook who thinks he knows. Have a U.S. CPA, a licensed certified tax professional, doing all of this and involved. Even if it is an extra expense, sometimes you find yourself doing it the wrong way, and basically you'd rather pay your CPA $1 than pay the IRS $5 for a mistake that you made on your taxes. But that's my time. I hope that was super helpful, guys. And I will be at the end, or I will be in the presentation here. And at the end, we'll definitely go over any Q&A. But I wanted to pass this off to my cohort here at AMZScout. This is Tina.
Thank you, Riley. That was amazing and very interesting. We actually have a few great questions in the Q&A section, but we'll answer them later, right? So I'll start with my part. As you can see, I'm a Chief Product Officer at AMZScout and have been for 8 years. And in just the past year, we've launched at least 6 brand new AI services to supercharge your sellers' productivity and results. So I'm really happy to be here today and explain how to find great products with AMZScout, how to go on with keyword research. So let's dive in. I'm going to share my screen right now. Just a second. Okay, here we go. I hope that everyone can see my screen. Could anyone please let me know that you see this screen that I'm sharing? So I'll check in a few seconds. So here we go. They say that there's no magic button to success on Amazon, but we do have a magic button to finding a new product. And here we go, here it is. So I'm starting with our Pro AI AMZScout extension, which can be downloaded on the Chrome store. And that's the button, the magic button I want to start with. It's called the product ideas. And if you click on it, options to go to the ready-made trends, random product idea, sellers in any category, and new and trending items. And if you click on it, you'll see a bunch of great products to sell. I'll start with a very niche or product that I found. It's a Labubu doll. Well, obviously, it's been trending for a while now. So I'm not sure if it's a great idea to launch this product right now, but if it was like at the beginning of the year or summer, it would still be a great idea. How to check if the product is great, if the niche is great or competitive, because sometimes it can seem like it's a great idea to sell, for example, a Labubu doll, but you need a lot of data to justify that. So it can be a little bit overwhelming to see all this data, but so let me check if you can see my screen. Okay, great. Yeah, sorry for that. But we have shortcuts. I'll show you later to see something, to see the niche analysis in a very but if you want to do it on your own, you can go to this view button, arrange a view of your extension by picking every column you want to look at. Every data you can pick, like the inventory, weight, rating, bestseller, A+ content, and stuff. I will not do that. I picked up the most important columns already to explain what they mean. So those are the 57 products from the first few pages of Labubu doll niche on Amazon. You can see columns like brand, category of these products, score for a private label, which means that this particular product scores 7 out of 10 for private labeling, and it explains why it's 7 of 8. This product has the same score for reselling, but yeah, the number is different. It's 10 of 10, and we also explain why that is. Every product has a rank, a BSR. Hope you know what it means. And if you click on this small, it will give you the product history with sales history, rank, price, reviews, and revenue history for any product on Amazon. You can tick off some of the data if you want to look at, for example, sales history in particular for this product. You can also see the day history and the month history, and you can see the most successful months for this product in terms of sales. For example, for this product, it was, I think, in November last year. So here you go. So estimated revenue for this for each product, again with a small icon where you can get back to the product history and understand how everything for this product, what was going on. The page revenue share column helps you to understand if there's a great like monopolist for this niche. And for this particular niche, so you can sort by any column, like. And when I analyzed this niche, I understood that there's a brand Pop Mart that I think occupied more than half of the niche, and there's many products by Pop Mart, and the first four. More than 50% of all the revenue and sales as well. So think about it. And next time you analyze any other niches, look at these columns, page share and page revenue and sales share of the niche. Then we have the prices column, which is obvious. The FBA fees, profit potential, listing quality score of the listings. If they're really high, it means that the sellers care about their listings. If you click on it, you'll see the breakdown. So they do everything right. They have great rating, reviews and stuff, A+ content, which means they have brand registry, which means that the competition is tough again. And you can see when these listings were launched, and almost all of the products started this year or last year, which means that the niche is quite fresh. The number of reviews, number of sellers for every listing, the seller type which owns the buy box right now, the seller's country, which can be really interesting, what countries sellers come from. You can see there's a lot of Chinese sellers in this niche. China, Hong Kong, US, and some other countries. The net profit, revenue per review, really interesting column, and the number of variants. I promised the shortcut, so here we go. We have another magic button, as I believe, which is called a AI Power Bot. So if you click on the first option here, it will give the AI niches for this niche. So you don't have to, scroll and sort through these data, open the product history, the niche history here, analyze everything, try to figure out what's going on, what the competition is, and stuff. So you can just click there. I've already prepared that for you. And here we go. You can just read everything I just explained. Let's see. Trends analysis for this niche will give you the product demand, seasonality analysis, number of variants, sales velocity, the variety of products in here. For example, the variety. The niche features a mix of plush dolls, accessories, and collectibles appealing to various age groups. Well, next up is the competition analysis. It indicates that there are top brands in this category, as I already mentioned. One of them is Pop Mart brand, mixed sellers and FBM sellers. number of sellers for the products, and some other stuff like listing quality score range and insights for every small bit of data. The pricing strategies, so it analyzes the range of the prices, the concentration of the prices, average prices, new sellers, average prices, and suggests the pricing for the new entrants. Bullet number 4, sales potential for a new product. So our AI bot analyzes the new product in particular, because if you launch a new product, you'll be new and you will compete with the whole bunch of sellers, of course, but also you'll be one of the new sellers and new products, and your reviews will obviously start from 0. So you can see here that 16 products were launched less than a year ago, which means that it's a very fresh niche with a lot of new sellers. So probably you could compete. You can still compete in here. And it gives us the analysis of the revenue potential. It recommends us to have at least 100 reviews to sell 5 to 10 items daily. It gives the most popular keywords among the listings, like it gives 5 in this case. So it's better to use them, to use the words plush toy, blind box, collectible in your title and in the listings, and the optimization strategy inside. Then you can see the first available data analysis, top competitors breakdown, and actionable insights. They can be really similar for niches, but still it's, I think, great to remember all of the key points to check yourself. You can also copy everything to the clipboard. Another button in the AI PowerBot right here, AI listings keyword density, I've already applied. And here you go. Here you can see the most frequent keywords from all the listings on the first few pages. If you copy it and analyze, you will understand what keywords, what thoughts, what phrases are important to pick up and include in your listings, and also what features for the clients, for those who buy those products. For example, in this case, cute dolls, outfits, plush doll clothing. So judging by these keywords, I can understand that the clothing is really important for these dolls, not just dolls themselves. So I'd better explain and describe what kind of clothing this doll had, my doll has, and include those keywords in my listing. There's also 4-piece set and so on. So the keywords are categorized into like accessories and inclusions. In this case, I mean, for the Labubu dolls, design and build, you see plush figures, vanilla plush hanging card, and some other frequent keywords, features and functions. Again, we can see clothes, blind boxes. So I guess they can be put in the blind box. It's really popular right now to put toys in the blind boxes, surprise boxes. Materials and safety. Well, obviously, different types of materials are mentioned. Usage and benefits, interactive, monkey toy, interactions and sounds. So obviously, as you can see here, the interactive part and is really important. So I'll get back to the Pro AI extension. There is also a product menu under each product where you can get more keywords. You can find this particular product by image on Alibaba if you click here, or on Google. You can copy the ASIN, look at the product history. There's also a great way to check for suppliers. Right here, you can find a supplier on Alibaba, or find worldwide. Let's click on find on Alibaba, for example. So it will give you like of different suppliers. So I picked India previously, but I can, for example, choose China, and I think there will be like 52,000 products found. And well, you can sort them by the price, minimum order quantity, And we also introduced the supplier quality. That's our own. And you can pick the supplier from here just by clicking. It will get you to the Alibaba website. I will, I think, check the questions if everything is clear right now. Okay. Well, I think I'll get back to the we promised at the end of the webinar. And well, I'll finish with the Pro AI extension. I think it has a lot of stuff. We're just limited in time. It has also, yeah, the favorites section. So you can go here and see the favorites products that you added in favorites. You can get them to the comparison tab and compare them data by data like this. But let's move on. The next one is the product database, AMZScout product database. Well, that's the place where you can find great ideas. It has like millions of them, and we're adding them every day. Software has filters you can apply. If you are not sure about the filters, you can go to the product ideas hub and pick any filter prepared for you if you want. There's also a bunch of data similar to the Pro AI extension, so I'll not go one by one. You can also sort by any column, add to favorites, and well, look at every product by clicking on it. It will go to Amazon. Open this product on Amazon. The next one would be the keyword search and trending keywords topics. The keyword search, well, I already typed the word Labubu here, has the data about the keywords. You'll need the keywords for your listing and for your PPC campaigns. So when I typed it gave me a lot of keywords connected with Labubu that include the word Labubu in them. And again, we can see Labubu blind box, Labubu toy, Labubu secret. So those are simultaneously the ideas for the product and the keywords for your future listing if you want to sell Labubu dolls. This tool has the estimated monthly search volume for each keyword. As you can see, there's a great big interest in Labubu dolls, judging by the search volume. We also have the history. As you see, it grew from there were no such a doll, I guess, at the end of the previous year, but now it's booming. So probably there's still a chance to enter the niche. Yeah, and this keyword trend in particular is growing. We have a CPC click price on Amazon. Obviously, the average keyword sales for this niche on Amazon as well. So on the average, if you'll be on the first 2 pages on Amazon for this keyword, big into energy Labubu, don't know what that is, you'll have 696 items sold per month. We have a ranking challenge column, which explains why it is hard in this case to be indexed for this keyword. If you sort this column by the ranking challenge column, you'll see the keywords for, in this case, Labubu macaron box, Pop Mart blind box, Christmas. Yeah, it is easy now, I guess, because it's not Christmas yet, probably. Labubu ears, color book Labubu, and so on, sticker. Then there's a sales conversion. That's a balance between the search volume and the sales, the average keyword sales. And I want to show you another tab, which trending keywords topics for the US for the past month. You can find great ideas here, the keywords that are growing in the past month. Not all of these ideas can be attractive or clear, but some of them are really great. When I scrolled down, I saw some Christmas ideas. So I guess some people are looking for Christmas products already, pet dog supplies. Sometimes it's not why something is growing, but sometimes it's quite clear. For example, the summer products for Halloween, for Christmas, and so on, just waiting for Halloween. And next up would be the ASIN Lookup, reverse ASIN Lookup by AMZScout. That's the tool that also gives us the keywords for your product and for PPC campaigns, but with another angle. I've already put the ASIN and a few more ASINs that identify Labubu dolls as well. And this tool gave me some. Oh, sorry, it's not a Labubu doll. I put some other ASINs. Yeah, I analyzed another niche. Let me show you. Yeah, cat steam brush. It has a really high niche score, and it looks really, really attractive. That's another niche that I prepared for this webinar for you, because Labubu doll is kind of, I guess, already competitive. But this niche is great. It doesn't have a high number of yet. In fact, a really low number of reviews usually means a really small, low competition. So look at this, how many reviews. The first organic products have a very, very few. So what I've done is that I've put ASINs from this niche here, and found a bunch of for this niche. Steamer brush cats, for dogs. I've already seen dogs here. Cat house. So there are keywords that would be effective for this niche. We have a keyword effectiveness. You can read what it means here. So the most, I guess, effective keywords can be sorted. So cat steam brush is the most effective keyword. You can also see the estimated monthly search volume, the keyword trend, if this keyword is trending or not. Again, the price of the click, average keyword sales, the ranking challenge, and sales conversion. I've already showed that in the keyword search section, so similar columns. Next one would be the keyword tracker. The keyword tracker is a tool that can track the position, the organic position for the keyword, for any keyword. And what I have arranged here is this ASIN, and I checked indexed by a bunch of keywords and their position. Tomorrow I'll have a history of my product. This ASIN is not my product, but let's imagine. And I'll see if its rank, in this case it's 206, very low, if it grew or not, or it stayed the same, or it became lower. So in a nutshell, that's about it. We have more tools that are included in the AMZScout tool pack, but it's just, so let me walk you through that once again, real quick. The Pro AI extension is included, and all the features and the AI analysis of products, of keywords and niches is included. The product database with millions of products you can sort through, you can filter through, and pick your own idea. The Amazon keyword search to get thousands of relevant keywords for your listing and for your PPC advertising, and also that's one more source of ideas if you don't know what to sell. The trending keywords topics, which is also included. The reverse ASIN Lookup tool, of course, is included in the package. Keyword tracker, product tracker, stock stats to check the inventory of any product just with an extension. And the quick view, again, the extension that I haven't shown it, but It's the extension that appears on every product on Amazon. You don't even have to click on anything, and it shows you a lot of data points for every product.